It's a TV tradition that plays out around the world. Families unwinding in front of the television with their favourite series. In Arabic, they're known as the Mosalsalat. For Syrian audiences this past July, there were two competing series vying for their attention. Both were adaptations of the Hollywood mafia film, The Godfather. Al-Arab, a copycat version of the film, was produced by SIPA, a TV company that was part of the Syrian state broadcaster until 2012. Its competitor, Clacket Productions, has an office in Damascus, but now conducts most of its work outside of the country, in places like Beirut and Abu Dhabi. Clacket has been distributing its own Godfather-inspired series, Al-Arab Nadi Sharq, or Godfather the Orient.
This is quite interesting in terms of the sociology of power that it portrays, because it actually focuses on a very specific moment of Syria, which is 2005, when neoliberal reforms initiated by President Bashar al-Assad leads to the creation of a class of crony capitalists that benefits from private investment, corporate banking, and even from TV soap opera. These reforms have led to the creation of a class of crony capitalists against whom the people raised in March 2011.
The only drama that has a real impact is the drama that reflects what the viewers are living. We are going through a very difficult labor, to the extent that even the identity of the country and our people are being rediscovered. We have plenty of stories to tell people.
In a media landscape dominated by Syrian state outlets, TV drama has been able to get at sensitive issues like nepotism and corruption, topics the country's mainstream media shy away from. Production slowed in the first few years of the war, but recently picked up again. In 2013, Clacket Productions made a series called Walada Mil al-Kasira, or Birth from the Waste, which looked at how the government and the Syrian people were dealing with the tensions of the war. The programme was reportedly banned from being aired by TV stations in government-controlled areas. Another series, Halawat al-Ruh, The Sweetness of the Soul, written by a Syrian writer outside of the country, tells the story of a Lebanese journalist kidnapped by rebels in Syria. It wasn't broadcast in the country, but got play across satellite channels like Abu Dhabi 1 and Iraq's Sol Maria.
Syrian drama in general has always been more political than other countries. We're increasingly seeing these kind of pushing of boundaries where regime forces are kind of seen as almost as bad as the anti-regime opponents that are attacking them. So we're kind of seeing a script now, for example, in a show, Wilayat al-Khasri, which is basically showing that there is a kind of parity between the violence between the regime forces and the rebels. And again, this is the kind of thing you wouldn't have seen in years past, where it's a strictly government propaganda, where the government side is the clean and the good guys and the bad guys are on the other side.
Many commentators and the press have always asked why is that in such like autocracy such as Syria, is it possible to deal with this issue with such an open-minded attitude? And in fact, many have interpreted this as what we call in Arabic tanfiz, which is a safety valve. Basically, you can deal with whatever issue you like, even the hottest one, but this is just to give citizens a sort of a breath.
And it's not just the war that Syrian TV dramas are dealing with. Last year, a company called Golden Line made a series on Syrian society, El Garbel. The 2014 series, Zebu al-Shanati, was filmed in Damascus and centred around a family caught in an immigration dilemma.
The quality of shows being produced is just as good as before the war. People who work in the industry have got over the idea of conflict or polarization and realize that life goes on. They have to work instead of focusing on the conflict.
However, the reality of the war cannot be ignored. It has had an impact on the industry. In the early days of the uprising against the Assad government, actor Jalal al-Tawil was beaten up by police for participating in a demonstration. Another of the country's best-known TV personalities, Jamal Suleiman, came out in support of the protesters and said his family home was raided by the Secret Service in retaliation. Suleiman has since left the country, one of more than 15 others who have fled and taken their key skills and talent out across the region.
We're having a lot more co-productions with other countries, so Syrian directors and actors are working with Gulf production companies, Lebanese directors. So there is kind of a new collaborative environment in the Arab production industry, particularly the Syrian industry, where this conflict has forced people to partner up with companies and people they might not have worked with before. And that's having some interesting results.
With regards to these companies, no one is settling down in one specific place. Production companies like Claquette are not fixed in Lebanon, Abu Dhabi or Dubai, and they could even end up in Egypt. The idea is not to make a local production. It's an attempt to circulate the money and make profit.
It's a big industry that needs a lot of funding. The TV shows are shown on channels, the majority of which are owned by the state. So there are restrictions on what can be shown in these countries.
Since we're seeing this Gulf money coming in, obviously we know that the Gulf countries have a stake in the conflict in Syria. They probably want to get through a certain message, so it's not going to be the kind of total freedom.
And for some of those who want a shot at total artistic freedom, the place to be, paradoxically, is Syria. For instance, there's Aleppo-based filmmaker Abdul Wahab al-Mullah, who produced 3-Star Revolution,
والله ماني سلفي ولاني إخوان ولاني علماني ولاني شيوعي.
a show that mocks all parties involved in the fighting.
Many people are producing TV drama in very dire conditions in places such as Aleppo and in a totally independent way. So they don't have a Gulf channel behind them. A huge satire this year with this Mosalsalat called Banned in Syria, a huge satire of every single party that is involved in this conflict. So like they poke fun at President Bashar al-Assad, meanwhile they poke fun at the Syrian Free Army.
Europe! وهي رجعتك بلدك. يا بلدي.
It's like a sort of like civil society saying, hey guys, to the powers that are fighting in Syria, hey guys, we don't agree with any of you.
الو لك شلونك لك خير وانتو كمان يا سلام اساس مناطق النظام لازم يكونوا مدللين.
And we want to show the world that the Syrian civil society is alive and it's even producing TV drama independently under such a dire condition.